Welcome to WildHER Wisdom, the podcast where bold meets brilliant and wisdom gets a little wild. Join Shelley and Mary as they dive deep into real conversations about life, leadership, creativity, and everything in between. We're here to spark laughter, light up inspiration, and celebrate the wild and wise woman inside you. Whether you're chasing dreams, finding your balance, or just in need of a good laugh, you are right where you belong. Let's jump into today's journey together. This is WildHER Wisdom.
Well, listeners, I can't believe it, but it is season 3 of WildHER Wisdom, and I am so glad you're here. You might notice that things sound a little different today, and that's because we are stepping into an exciting new season of the show. WildHER Wisdom is all about growth, it's all about evolution, and embracing the power of change. Because, as I always like to say, as I heard from someone much smarter than me, change is the only constant. And I couldn't be more excited about what we are headed into next. I do want to take a moment to thank Amy for being part of the early chapters of WildHER Wisdom. This show grew and evolved in such meaningful ways when she was here. And as part of that continued evolution, we're shifting into something new and very exciting. So, with that, I am thrilled to welcome someone who brings so much heart, insight, and a whole heck of a lot of wisdom to the mic. My new co-host, Mary Gajda.
Woohoo!
I know. I am so excited you're here, Mary. The listeners are going to be so excited to get to know you. I cannot wait to dive into this next chapter with you. We're going to say the same, and that we are always filled with real conversations, inspiring stories, and WildHER magic. So let's get right into it. Mary.
Yes, I want to cue the audience sound, the
Yes.
I'm so happy to be doing this with you.
I am so happy too. So, listeners, I have known Mary for a really long time. I don't know how long because time has become a construct the older I get, but Mary did my boudoir photos about 10 years ago, so she knows me as well. But Mary is literally so creative. She's one of those people that's just inspiringly good at everything. She can take photographs. She has the voice of an angel behind the mic. She can plan a party like nobody's business. She makes charcuterie. She does crafts. She literally can make anything look beautiful.
Except for technology, as you've learned sitting with me.
Listen, if you were good at everything, Mary, that just wouldn't be fair to the world.
That's right.
So tell us a little about what drew you to WildHER Wisdom and what wild and wise means to you these days.
I spent a good portion of my life behind a mic. So I almost feel like that's just an extension of me, like an arm. And I feel like I'm in my realist form behind a mic. Maybe because it amplifies my voice. But I just love being behind a mic. Wild means freedom to me. And I'm in that freedom phase of my life where I'm getting old and I kind of don't really give a shit what people think. And that is new to me. That's really new to me. And wise is just having lived through so many things, not all great, that you learn from.
Yeah, I am with you. I've said this before, but I thought when I turned 30, I had to be really serious. Like, it's time to be serious, girl. Your life is nearly over at this point. What are you doing? You need to be serious. And, hung up my leather pants and put on a business suit. And then at 40, I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'm starting to understand this stuff. And at 50, I'm like, got it. Check, check. IDGAF. I'm here to make shit happen.
That's right.
So I already have alluded to so many of your talents, but you really do have a rich creative journey. You've done radio, you've done TV, photography. I hear, some really important local stars like me. Just kidding. You're a wonderful writer. What is one thing you've learned about authentic storytelling that you hope to bring to the show?
I've said this before, truth resonates louder than bullshit. And you get more done when you just say what you mean and mean what you say. It's just cut and dry. It's the only way to get from point A to point B.
Absolutely. And I've said this, you've probably heard me say this before. I'm just really, I just have all these little snippets on repeat. That's how I get through my life. But, like we're not special. Like Mark Manson said that in one of his books, like you're not special, but like in the best of ways. Like we spend so much time being concerned for much of our lives about what other people think about us when really we don't necessarily even hold them in that high of esteem. And we all have the same struggles, the same triumphs, the same, things that we're feeling a little less than about. And if we just put it out in the middle of the table and say, let's talk about this, it's amazing how we can find how much we are alike versus different.
And I think that's why people get happier when they're older, because you let that filter go and it just opens up a new space to kind of just be. That's pretty freeing.
Yeah, listen to my children. You think that I don't have a filter now, just wait.
I know I keep saying I'm turning into my mother, but I'm not mad at that.
In the best of ways. In the
Exactly.
best of ways.
I want to continue the evolution though and ask you a couple of questions.
I would love it. I'm always here for some answers.
Okay, so for folks that have been with you since the beginning of WildHER Wisdom, and for those who are just finding us, what inspired you to create WildHER Wisdom in the first place?
I think that there's several things. One, it's like so many people have platforms these days, and some of them are saying really interesting, uplifting, positive things, and some of them maybe not so much, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as I've gone through my journey as a mom, as a woman in business, as a Black woman in life, I've collected these experiences that I think have value to share, kind of like we were just talking about, like sometimes putting it out on the table and saying, I've experienced this gives people that, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. And so there was that piece of it. And the authenticity is so important to me, like talking about hard things because we don't grow in the easy moments. And even though it'd be wonderful if life was all butterflies and rainbows and unicorns, that's not the reality. So talking about the fun things are great, but sharing some of the things that we've overcome and how we did it may give someone else like just a little spark of hope, just a little something that says, oh, yeah, I can do this. I'm not alone. And so for me, that was what was really important and to have fun. Like I'm all about fun. I love to live life out loud. I want to eat life up. And so as we'll go through this journey, as anyone who has ever had a glimpse into my life, there's always something new that I'm looking at and I love to share it with the world.
So how do you see the next chapter kind of being more empowering for everyone listening?
Well, I think having you as my co-host is going to be really fun. We have longevity and just a great connection in my not so humble opinion. And then we're adding some fun elements. You bring such great creativity and insight into things. So, the addition of the blog on the website and sharing some of those moments, adding some newsletters and behind the scenes, just some more sources and nuggets of wisdom for people. I think
Mm-hmm.
we're going to take that conversation and elevate it and really work on interacting with people and not just talking at
Yes.
people.
Yes, I love that. And serving up lots of those nuggets.
Yes, lots of those nuggets. So, like I said, some things are going to stay the same, some things are going to change, but overall, the authenticity, the empowerment, us being here to embrace the good shit and the bad shit with you is going to remain the same because we are committed to uplifting the people that listen to this show and each other, right?
That's the truth.
I know. So, Mary, wild her wisdom, it has a lot of different connotations, right? Wild her, we're talking about women. We're a little bit wild, a little bit sassy. We do have a lot of wisdom. But when in your life did you feel the absolute wildest?
Boy, I think there's two phases of life. The first is when you leave the nest.
Mhm.
And you, back then, way back in the Stone Ages, when cell phones weren't a big thing,
Was that
you
back
know,
when tigers used to smoke? I heard that.
yeah. So you have a freedom because you're not reporting to mom and dad.
Mhm.
You're in a different space. I was at college and I only went to college for a year, but I was there and I was free and I wasn't accountable to anyone. So I was a little wild then. And then I think now in a way I'm wild because I have done some growing, in the last few years. I've been trying to do the work and I feel more free, I think, than I ever have. I definitely speak my mind now. So
Mhm.
some people may think something in me broke. That's fine. But I feel really free. So I think now.
Listen, maybe it was your cocoon, right? The butterfly has to break out of their cocoon to become
That's right.
the beautiful thing they're meant to be. And I
That's
think
right.
it's interesting that you said that there's two phases. Like for us now, like we're similar age, we're in our 50s, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
like two phases so far. But I agree with you. Like you leave the nest. I was a teenage mom, so I left a little early and had to do some growing up pretty quickly. So there's the that of it. Like, how
Mm-hmm.
do I get my life together, build a life for my kid, build a career, get educated, do the things that are important to me. And now there's like, I'm on the other end of it. Now I'm just a hop, skip, and a jump away from being an empty nester for the first time in 32 years. And so there's the wildness of that. Like, oh my gosh, I can do whatever I want. Like, I can, you know, travel or I can start new hobbies. Now, obviously, I'm going to become an empty nester. I'm literally bringing birds to the nest. I'm getting chickens, but that's very wild to me, like something I never could have imagined even having like the brain bandwidth to think about caring for one more thing, right?
Right.
And so like wildness is to me it's like such a moving target because it
Mm-hmm.
depends on where you are at whatever stage you are in your life. So and you've been on a glow up, girl. You have been on the Mary glow up, and I love being on the sidelines cheering you on.
Couldn't be there without you. When was a time wisdom had to catch up to your wild side?
Oh, geez. Well, again, back to my leather pants days. Um,
I say
you
still
know,
wear the leather pants, by the way.
I'm back to that point in my life where I just might do it. Again, being a teenage mom, it's like you have all of those urges to do the things, right? Like you
Mm-hmm.
see your friends going out and like I went to college, but my college experience looked very different than many of the people that I knew who went to college because I was working full time as an executive and I was caring for a child and it was hard. Like it was like all these years later talking about it seems like yeah, not a big deal. Like it was hard and I didn't get to do some of the things that I wanted to do in the way that I wanted to do it. But then you get a different perspective as you get older. And I realized what a gift it was to grow up with my oldest son. Like we literally grew up
Mm-hmm.
together. And I'm close with all my kids. I'm so fortunate to have a great relationship with all three of my kids. But the bond that my oldest and I have, because we had to go through the hard stuff together, is one that's like unbreakable. Like it's just, I can't even describe it. And so I think my wisdom had to catch up with my wild because did I want to be out in those streets? Yeah, but it wasn't feasible for the stage I was in. So,
Right.
what about you?
It's interesting. I think about it and I think it's still catching up.
Hmm.
I really do. I think I've had a creative outlet as careers my entire life. I've never really had to be I've just been me this whole time and still finding myself. So I think again, just like with this glow up we've been joking about, it's really true. So I think it's the wisdom is catching up with the wild side because in a way, wild can also be the opposite of what we've been talking about so far. Wild can be sort of untamed in a negative way. And so that I kind of do flip that switch. And so now I'm catching up with being okay with myself, with speaking my mind, with difficult conversations, asking for what I want when I never do. Actually, just going out and doing things I never would have done, saying no instead of yes.
Yep,
So those are it's now again. So it's a shame this didn't happen to me 30 years ago because I think I would have lived maybe a different life. But at the same time, that messy stuff is what helped me grow as well. So
absolutely.
yeah.
I think that life always puts you exactly where what you want to be or where you need to be at the right
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, not looking back, but I agree. Like, wild is setting boundaries. Like, wild to me is I am hardcore about my sleep. Like, you know me, I talk about it. Listeners, you've heard me. Like, sleep is important to me because, taking care of my body, my mental health, all of those things are important to me. And so, boundaries of, yeah, nope, I'm only going to be here till about 8, and then I'm going to go home and go to bed.
Right.
Or wild can be, you know, deciding who is invited into your space and who you're willing to give your time and attention to. I've shared with you before, Mary, and I wrote a blog about it. A friend of mine was holding an event and she said, your attention is the most precious gift you can give someone, something to that effect. And I really have thought about that a lot because we do have such finite time. Like time is a resource that we just, there's a limited amount. And so how am I choosing and with whom am I choosing to spend it? And that's a wild decision because I was just to get involved with everything, everyone, yes, 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 in the past, because I do enjoy helping people. I do enjoy being out and experiencing life. But the recalibration of, is this what's really important? Or is there
Mm-hmm.
someone or something more important? I think is a wild decision to make.
Yeah, I think, we say yes. We're encouraged, say yes to this, say yes to that. And we were made to think saying no is negative, but
Hmm.
no is just a boundary to protect yourself in a way. So
Yes.
that's wild to me too.
And it's a complete sentence.
Yes.
It's a complete sentence.
Sometimes with an exclamation point. So,
Exactly. Exactly. Which, again, the benefit of wisdom, the benefit of growing through life and realizing that it's just no. It's not no because or oh, I wish, or it's just no.
hmm hmm I have
And
this conversation with my husband all the time. You don't have to explain to me why you don't want to do something. No, it's okay.
yeah,
That's all I really need.
absolutely. I just want to know if you're coming or not. That's all I want to know.
Yep.
Because you know me, I assume if somebody is not going to do something that I'm doing, they're going to miss out on the best time. But
That's
that's
right.
totally okay.
Yep. So, what's one wild decision you've made that changed your life for the better?
I would say definitely. I mean, I made a couple of wild decisions. I raised my oldest as a single mom and then got married, had my two youngest. And so I took some time off from work and was really present in their life and a little bit, maybe set my career back. I don't really think that I did, but, it was the most important thing to me. And then subsequently getting divorced and becoming a single mom again and choosing to go back to grad school while being, while caring for them on my own. But huge impact on my life in the positive, right? Like I love
Mhm.
learning. So that's, that goes without saying that I always enjoy that. But just demonstrating to my kids that we can do hard things, that we can overcome. And for me, I've always been proud of myself in the way that I've created lives for my kids and I take that very seriously just to be able to provide for them and do things, but also to be hopefully someone that they look up to know that it doesn't matter how hard things, get. You just take one step in front of the other, in front of the other. And what's the saying? How to eat an elephant one bite at a time and you can accomplish whatever you need. So I would say those are a couple of wild decisions that I've made to help me get to where I wanted to be in my life.
And you'll never regret it.
Ever, never, ever. I don't do regret. Like I know that's a thing people do, but like, I've done a lot of studying of Buddhism and forgiveness, and now I'm into Stoicism and philosophy. And I was reading a book by Jack Cornfield once, and he talks about, sort of the concept of regret and forgiveness, and that it's about giving up the hope of a better past,
Mm,
right? Because like I can't regret anything because I can't change the past and I'm a what's coming next type of gal.
right.
Like I'm looking out the front window, not out the rear view. And so every little step or misstep or what have you has formed me into the person that I am. And I don't regret anything about myself.
I love that. I
I
love that.
really don't. So what about you?
I think um I'll go back to COVID times when my
Mhm.
daughter became pregnant. She also had a heart issue at that time. And I just wanted to be there for her. And I loved my job, but I had the luxury of being able to take what I call a sabbatical and go down to a part time so that I could watch her baby. Daycare was really hard to find during COVID. It was a scary time, so of course you weren't sure who you should be around and who was safe and who was taking care of themselves and that sort of thing. So I took some time off work and it was the best thing I've ever done. I'm really close with my grandchild and I'll always have that time with her, and I'll never regret doing that for her.
Absolutely not. And you're forming so many memories and
Mm-hmm.
bonds, right? And think about the impact of saying, like, this is what family is about, right?
Right.
Like, to me, it's like, what's the message in the doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in the message is like family is important, because people are always picking up something from us, from what we say or we don't say, from what we do or we don't do. And the message to me is so important. And kind of like with me and my kids, like, hard work is important, and you can achieve your goals, maybe not necessarily on your timeline,
Right. Right.
but you can achieve your goals if you work hard. And I believe wholeheartedly in working my mind, working my body, working hard. I want to go to bed exhausted every night because
Mm-hmm.
I just took everything that life had to offer, and I made it through, and I made it through with integrity and feeling really good about it.
Right.
And I think the message that you're sending your family and yourself is like, family's important, right? And like, what's the saying that they say for women our age, Mary, that you become the person that you needed at that age,
Wow.
and becoming the person that you may have needed is going to help them become the person that they needed, and so on and so on.
Yeah, that's super important. And this goes back deep for me because when I was really young and a much bigger people pleaser than I am now, and a bit of a workaholic, and I had an odd, I was in radio. I always had weird hours and odd schedules. And the only way to make money was to do all these extra, they would call them remotes, where you would go out to different locations and broadcast. And so she was with sitters a lot. She was sent with her dad. We were divorced. So it was a hard time in her life, and I wasn't there for her as much as I could have been. And that has been my greatest thing that I've thought about in life. How can I give this something back to her,
Hmm.
that might even make up for this, because that haunts you, when you think about parenting and what did I do right and what did I do wrong. There's no real guidebook, but it was
Hmm.
a gift that I could give her that made me feel, better about being a good mom, because I think we're all
Hmm.
still learning and growing and we can still be better. So it was just an important thing for me to do, and it did change my life for the better, and I think hers too. So
Yeah.
seeing me do that.
It's interesting because I've had those conversations with my oldest, because I really had two separate parenting times, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we've had conversations as he's gotten older, and he doesn't have kids yet. And, when you start having adult conversations with your adult children, as that relationship changes a little bit.
Right.
And I've said to him, like, I really did the best I could do with what I had. And I know I didn't do everything right, but my goal was always to be self sustaining, to create a life for you that I thought you deserved. And I know that that meant more time away than either one of us would have liked. But that was my decision making. And I'm not apologizing. Like, I'm not saying this to him, but like, I'm not apologizing for it. I'm explaining it
Right.
because, like you said, there's no guidebook. There's no, here, parenting 101, when this happens, do this. No, like, we're all flying by the seat of our pants. You know?
I say that to a lot of people when they talk about parents and parenting, and I'm mad at my parent for this, and my parent didn't give me this as a child. I'm like, it was your parents' first time, you know.
Right.
They're
Even if it wasn't their first time, even if they had more kids, they're living a human experience, right?
right, right, and nobody is perfect. We're so far from perfect.
And I've
So
literally never met one single person who said, I had the perfect childhood.
right, right. And if they did, I probably wouldn't believe them. And
A
that's not to
100%.
negate anyone who's had some serious childhood trauma. That I'm not relating this to that, but I'm
Absolutely
just
not.
saying, we're all human.
Right. We're all living a human experience moment by moment, trying to do the best that we can, right?
Right. Exactly. So, what's something you're still learning about balancing ambition and joy?
Oh my gosh. I have to say, Mary, I am in a really good, what I call season of my life. And I reflect on my gratitude for that every day because life is, ups and downs, and you do not appreciate the light if you haven't seen the dark. And so when you're on and up, I try to really soak it in and be grateful for it. And, I journal and do all of those things. And so right now for me, I think the balancing is I could spend a lot of time doing a lot of different things that bring me
Hmm.
joy because
Hmm.
I love learning. It's like, gosh, I always think, oh, maybe I should go back and get a doctorate. Oh, I'm getting chickens. Oh, I'm going to take a class on gardening and become a master gardener. Oh, I'm going to, and so like the bandwidth, I guess for me is like be really good at some things is
Hmm.
what I'm working on. Like be really
Hmm.
good at some things. And I'm not saying I'm really good at a number of things yet, but I'm decent at a couple things. And so I'm trying to focus on be really good at some things. And so the some things I'm focusing on are my family relationships, my husband, my kids, my learning how to garden because it brings me a lot of joy. And then I'm focusing my love of learning right now on philosophy and stoicism. And so I'm trying to stay within those things as far as, where I'm going out and spending my energy. And then really doing I do a lot of I love working out. I love working my body hard because I think it's one important for longevity, and two, out of curiosity, it's like what can I do? Like, what is my potential here? How many
Right.
push-ups can I do every night? Like, I don't know. The only way I'm going to find out is if I do it, right? But what's interesting about that is I'm learning the art of slowing down
Hmm.
for working out. And so I am like just with learning other things like all gas, no brakes. Like if if a 30-minute run is good for you, gosh, a 45 or an hour run has to be great, right? But you have to give yourself the time to get better, and you get better in the running the 13-minute miles very slow, right?
Right.
And so I'm balancing my ambition for joy in that way. And as you know, Mary, you know me really well. I think of James Clear a lot. He's an author that I love who actually turned me on to Stoicism. And he talks about what you do today is going to benefit the person you are a year from now, and where you are today is a reflection of what you did a year ago.
Hmm.
And so I tried to balance that with, okay, I'm 52, like what is the power of slowing down? How's that going to benefit the Shelley a year from now? And so it's a constant recalibration in my mind, if that makes sense.
It makes so much sense. It really does.
I do a lot of
Gosh,
thinking all day long, Mary.
never stop.
What about you? What are you learning about balancing ambition and joy?
Oh my goodness. I think I've mentioned I'm a workaholic. And it's really sad when you think about it. And it's something I've been working on as well as if I was single and didn't have anyone else in my life to take care of, I would probably work until 11, 12, 1 a.m., get up at 5 and do it again. That's something I've always done. I started working when I was 11 years old in a bakery, and I have never stopped. And that is the executor in me as I'm learning from a Clifton Strengths coach, developer, arranger. So I'm always trying to get things done, make it happen, but I'm neglecting my family. I'm neglecting my body. I'm neglecting my sleep. And so one of the things I'm working on to balance is work life. And sometimes that means unplugging my everything, putting my computer in another room, turning off my phone because that is a challenge. I'm addicted to my phone, but I've got all my work stuff
Oh.
on my phone. So I'm getting notifications and I'm trying to put my phone away. My husband and I are working on let's put our phones, across the room. And, if one of our kids calls, sure, we can pick it up. But otherwise, we're just going to sit here and be together. So we're working on that. It's hard. It's
Hmm.
really hard to put those phones down and be present. It's easy to
Yes.
just be scrolling, 3 feet away from each other. So that's what I'm working on.
That's a big, I mean, that is a big thing. The phone addiction is
Hmm.
real. I'm listening to a book called Leaders Eat Last right now, and it talks about the dopamine rush we get from it.
Yes.
And that's where the addiction comes from because, we're refreshing and refreshing because we want that dopamine rush.
Hmm.
And, the same reason we, overeat, we like the dopamine rush, or the same reason we get addicted to, XYZ. Like we're all addicted to something, right? Like,
Yes. Yes.
like I'm addicted to learning. It gives me a dopamine rush. Like, you know what I mean? There's addiction isn't necessarily a negative connotation, but it's being cognizant of your addiction. And if you're leaning on it too hard for that rush of dopamine. So the phone, though, whew, that's a tough one.
It is a tough one. I was even reading about people with anxiety and why they love true crime
Mm-hmm.
podcasts and shows. And part of that is, even though it's negative, you're going for that dopamine because maybe you've had traumatic experiences in your life and you've kind of trained your brain. That's how you get your dopamine, even though it's not a happy thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really fascinating. And then, of course, there's the other side of it where you're getting it because you're seeing justice served and a resolution. But the
Mm-hmm.
whole dopamine thing is real, and it's with
Oh yeah.
everything we do.
Oh yeah. It's our old reptilian brains,
Yes,
like for real,
yes,
from way back. Interesting. Well, Mary,
yes.
I could talk on, but you know what? I want to get to this Wild Her No Filter finale because
Mm.
when we got together and started talking about some changes we were going to make to the podcast, this was one of the things that I was so excited about. So listeners, every episode we're going to close with a Wild Her No Filter finale, which are quick fire-ish questions, no overthinking, all fun, fierce, honest answers. This is a judgment-free zone. So for this one, because it's just Mary and I, we are going to go through a series of a few questions for one another. I don't know the questions she's going to answer. She doesn't know the questions I'm going to ask her, but we're going to go through and you're going to learn a little something. And so are we. So do you want to go first? You want
I
me to
want you
ask
to ask
first?
me questions
You want,
first. I want to get mine
okay.
over with.
Mary's like, get it over with. All right, Mary, we're totally unfiltered, right?
Okay.
So, what's one belief or rule you were taught as a woman that you've completely ditched?
When I was growing up, I was not allowed to make any noise, bodily function noise. We'll put it that way. You're not allowed to pass gas. You're not allowed to belch. I am a big belcher. And there's something so free and hilarious about it. And I make the same noise every time I go, oh, excuse me. My husband laughs every time, but that's something that I was raised with, that I've let go, and it makes me laugh. Now I don't do that at work or anything, but
We also have a belching noise making house at what I affectionately call the old Boyd Dave Lock house. And so every time something happens, the response is always polite panda. I don't know why. That's our response. Polite panda.
Polite panda. Oh my goodness.
All right. What is one thing you're currently healing or unlearning that might surprise people?
Mm. I'm unlearning apologizing for everything. It's
Hmm.
another thing I grew up doing. Sorry, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. And
Hmm.
that's one thing I'm trying to teach my daughter. You don't have to be sorry for being you. You don't have to be sorry for being a human. You don't have to be sorry for saying no. That's some work.
Yeah,
Something I'm also still working on, but that is something I'm unlearning and forcing myself to do. So,
absolute. Apologies, in my mind, are reserved for things that you're actually sorry for,
exactly.
not just filter words, right?
Right.
What's the boldest decision you've made lately that scared you, but you did it anyway?
I wanted to be back in a band. I used to be in a band, so I started a band, and performed in front of a pretty good sized group. And I was scared to death. Look, I like being behind a mic, but not in front of people. I like being in that. I wanted to be a late night kind of romance show radio host for years, not on a stage in front of people. But man, was that fun! It was a good time.
Mhm. You are so good on the stage. I love listening to you sing, and you do have the best voice.
I don't have
So
your stage presence though, so.
Well, there's a difference. I don't have any stage fright. I am not nearly like not even remotely as talented as you. I
Oh,
just don't have any stage fright, which I don't know if that's good or bad.
it's good.
All right. When do you feel most wild her, like the fullest, freest version of yourself?
When I'm with the right people, when I'm with the people that fill my cup and I can say anything and there's no judgment and they can say anything back to me. That's it.
The vibe check, right? Like you
Yep,
know when that energy is like there.
exactly.
All right, this is going to be my last question for you.
Okay.
If you had a mic to the world for 30 seconds, what would you say unfiltered?
I'm going to go back to the whole sorry thing and say, just take ownership, be you, and quit saying you're sorry all the time for everything. That's just one thing I want people to take away. And it's the one thing I'm trying to teach my daughter. And it's something that I say to my friends or people who ask me, about the new me, because it is noticeable. I have changed a lot in the last couple of years. Quit saying sorry. Just be you.
Yes, I love it. All right, what have you got for me, Mary? I'm so
Okay.
excited.
All right. Now my questions are some of them are a little deep, some of them aren't. So just
Ooh.
roll with me, have fun. What's your power word today?
My power word today. I have so many words that I like. My power word today is going to have to be specificity. I
Say
don't
that
know.
three times.
It's my favorite word, and it to me it's encompassing. Like with specificity, what do you mean with specificity? Like being really clear, like it's clarity, but
Yes.
it sounds a little bit cooler.
Yeah, it does sound cool. If fear didn't exist, what's the first thing you'd do tomorrow?
I would jump out of a plane.
Oh, all right. What's one lie the world told you that you no longer believe?
That a woman can't be president.
Yes. When do you feel like your most untouchable self?
When I am up, not on a stage the way you are, but when I am up on a stage speaking and sharing wisdom to a
Mhm.
group of people.
Love it. What's your inner anthem right now?
I mean, it's Gavin DeGraw. I don't want to be anything other than what I've been trying to be lately.
Yeah. What's the sassiest piece of advice you've ever received or given?
Ooh, sassiest piece I've ever received is probably from my stepmom. Make sure you keep your man happy at home, if you know what I mean. Wink, wink.
And if your energy today were an outfit, what would you be wearing?
It'd be all black leather.
Yes.
Mary, this has been so fun. I cannot wait for the rest of this season and so many to come. Thank you for going on this journey with me. Listeners, if you don't subscribe to us on Substack, please do so you can get the podcast right into your inbox. Make sure you follow us on social media, go to our website, check out our blog. We have got an incredible guest lined up for the next episode. You won't want to miss. Listen, I'm just saying, Mary and I are hanging around with best-selling authors. I'm going to leave it at
Mm-hmm.
that.
I love it. Can't wait.
All right, listeners, see you next time.
And just like that, beautiful soul, we have wrapped up another episode of WildHER Wisdom. But don't let the journey end here. Come connect with us. Follow us on Instagram, like our Facebook page, and visit wildherwisdom.com to catch up on episodes, grab extra inspiration, and stay part of our WildHER community. And remember, the conversations here are for your inspiration and empowerment, not professional, medical, or therapeutic advice. Trust yourself and reach out to qualified pros when you need to. Until next time, stay bold, stay brilliant, and keep living your WildHER life. You are powerful, you are wise, and you are absolutely unstoppable.